She was 47 years old, alone, and heavily pregnant. The night she was abandoned at the station, no one came to help her. But someone did whisper to her, and those words would change everything. "You're mine now." Rain splattered against the cracked roof of an old rural train station in Pennsylvania. It was October 1994. The fluorescent lights buzzed, casting the platform in a sickly yellow haze. On the bench sat Martha Lane, a woman with swollen feet, pale skin, and the unmistakable weight of late pregnancy. Her suitcase was small, too small. Inside, only a faded nightgown, a Bible, and a baby's knitted blanket. Passengers avoided her eyes. Some whispered, "Too old, isn't she? Looks like trouble." But Martha said nothing. She clutched her belly, fighting tears. A station guard later recalled, "She kept looking down the tracks like she was waiting for someone who was never going to come." And then, the last train left, the platform emptied, the air grew still. That was when a man leaned close, unseen by security cameras, and whispered into her ear, "You're mine now." Martha Lane had lived a quiet, almost invisible life in Millhaven, a small steel town in decline. She had married once, decades earlier, but her husband had vanished in 1972. Officially, he was missing, but locals said he walked out one morning and never came back. For years, Martha worked at the town's laundromat. People described her as kind, plain, but deeply private. And then, in 1994, to everyone's shock, Martha appeared visibly pregnant. At 47 years old. Her sister recalled, "When I asked her who the father was, she wouldn't say. She just kept smiling in this strange way. It was unsettling, like she was proud of something but couldn't tell you what." Doctors had warned her the pregnancy was dangerous, complications were almost certain, but Martha ignored them. She insisted this child was a gift from God. And then, 2 weeks before her due date, she disappeared from Millhaven. The only trace left behind was a note scrawled on the laundromat counter. "Don't wait for me. I'll be safe." Detective Alan Reeves, then a young investigator with the Pennsylvania State Police, was assigned the case after a missing persons report was filed. The station's security footage showed Martha until 11:37 p.m. After that, she was gone. No bus tickets, no train tickets, no credit card use. Witnesses gave conflicting statements. Some said she left with a man in a dark coat. Others swore she simply walked into the night. Every trail I followed collapsed into silence. It was as if she wanted to disappear. But then, something strange happened. 2 weeks later, a package arrived at the Millhaven post office. No return address. Inside was Martha's Bible, the one from her suitcase. The cover had been cut open. Inside, a page was circled in red ink. Isaiah 49:15. Can a mother forget the baby at her breast and have no compassion on the child she has borne? Below it, scrawled in unfamiliar handwriting, she didn't forget. She gave him away. Years later, the Fear Archive uncovers taped interviews from Reeves' files. The day before she vanished, Martha brought me a casserole. She kept saying, "I won't need dishes anymore." I thought it was just talk. I saw her sitting there. She wasn't scared. That's the odd part. She looked resigned, like she knew who she was waiting for. She told me once, "He'll come for us when it's time." I asked who. She just smiled. I thought she was losing her mind. In 1996, nearly 2 years after Martha's disappearance, construction workers found a suitcase buried under loose floorboards of the old laundromat before demolition.
Inside was a journal. The entries are fragmented, almost obsessive. Journal entry April 3rd, 1994. He promised me a child, said age is no barrier, said I would carry his gift. Entry, June 22nd, 1994. The town won't understand, but he whispers at night, tells me not to worry, that he'll take care of us when the time comes. Entry, October 12th, 1994. Tomorrow I leave. He said he'll find me at the station. He said the words, I must remember, you're mine now. This doesn't read like a lover. It reads like devotion, cult-like. Was someone controlling her? A bombshell surfaced in 1997. Hospital records from Ohio showed that an unidentified woman, matching Martha's description, gave birth under a false name. The baby, a boy, was delivered by emergency C-section. But the mother vanished hours later. The child was placed into foster care. He was later adopted, renamed, and shielded under sealed records. Detective Reeves tried to access them, but was denied. To this day, the boy's identity remains redacted. Klinghanger transitioned to Act 3. But 20 years later, that child, now grown, reached out to investigators with a disturbing message. I think I know who whispered to her, because he whispered to me, too. In 2016, Reeves, now retired, received a phone call from a 21-year-old man. For legal reasons, we'll call him Daniel. Daniel had discovered his adoption papers and traced fragments back to Martha. What haunted him most were his own memories. He said, all my life, I've heard him in dreams, a man's voice whispering the same words my mother wrote about. You're mine now. I thought I was going crazy. Daniel described a recurring nightmare. Standing at a deserted train station, a man in a long coat, face hidden, a whisper, close to his ear. Reeves compared the description to accounts from 1994. It matched perfectly. But here's the chilling part. Daniel swore he'd never seen the case files. Reeves dug deeper. He uncovered a pattern of similar disappearances spanning decades. 1972, a young mother in Ohio vanished from a bus stop. 1981, a pregnant woman in West Virginia missing after leaving church. 1994, Martha Lane. All cases involved women in late pregnancy. In each, witnesses reported a whisper. This is not coincidence. Someone has been hunting women on the margins, promising salvation, taking their children. But who? In 2018, DNA testing finally revealed the truth. Daniel's biological father was not some mysterious cult leader. It was Detective Alan Reeves himself, the investigator who had spent decades chasing Martha's ghost, was the man she'd been waiting for. Court records later revealed that Reeves had met Martha briefly in 1993 during a community outreach program. They had one encounter, a drunken night he'd long buried. But Martha had remembered. To her, Reeves' brief words of comfort had transformed into divine prophecy. And when Reeves began investigating her disappearance, he unknowingly pursued the shadow of his own secret. Daniel confronted Reeves in a recorded interview. You whispered to her, didn't you? Maybe not at the station, maybe years before. But those words stayed in her head, and then she passed them to me. Reeves broke down. He admitted nothing, denied everything. But his silence said more than words. The case was closed without charges. The files remain sealed. As for Daniel, he lives quietly, haunted by a legacy he never asked for. He ended his interview with a chilling confession. Sometimes, when I look in the mirror, I hear it again. That same whisper. And I don't know if it's him or if it's me.